All right, chapter 9, big life changes. Where do we start? Sometimes you reach a moment in your life when you realize a change is needed and you know exactly what the change is. But it doesn't always happen like that. More often than not, we go through a period of strain and discomfort. We start to recognize that things are not as we would like them to be, but we cannot pinpoint exactly why or how we can begin to make it better. This is where your incredible human brain comes into its own. In chapter 3, we talked about metacognition, our ability to not only consciously experience the world, but to also then think about and reassess the experience we had. This is a key life skill that we use in therapy. It is the epicenter of any big life change. You cannot change what you cannot make sense of. Albert Einstein reportedly once said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solutions." This quote often comes to mind when I hear the common misconception that therapy consists of sitting in a room and dwelling on your problems. It does involve thinking about your problems, but there is a method in that. The most effective way to resolve a problem is to understand the problem inside out. So, how do we use metacognition when we are facing big changes? Building awareness begins with looking back. For anyone in therapy or counseling, you can talk about the things that have happened and get useful prompts for the therapist to help you make sense of it. For those that are using a self help approach, journaling is a great place to start. There is no pressure to write huge amounts or to write in a way that makes sense to anybody else. The aim is to build on your own ability to reflect on your experiences and how you respond to them. For example, let's say you failed an exam, and in the moments after finding out, you call yourself a stream of unprintable names, and you told yourself that you would never amount to anything. Metacognition involves reflecting on those thoughts and how they further impacted your experience. Metacognition involves reflecting on those thoughts and how they further impacted your experience. I know I already read that, but that's okay. The power of using metacognition is that it opens up our ability to be accountable to ourselves and to examine the part we play in staying the same or making change. It reveals the big influence that seemingly small behaviors can have, both positive and negative. Journaling in this way can feel strange if we are used to glossing over things without paying too much attention to the details. But over time, those details can help us to build our awareness of our experience and hindsight. As we start to spot the cycles and the patterns of other behavior in the moment as they happen. This is when we create the possibility of choosing something different and making the positive changes that we want for ourselves. Try this. Use these journal prompts to help you explore the problems that you are tackling and practice the skill of thinking about your thoughts. Describe any significant events that happened. What thoughts did you have at that time? How did that way of thinking impact the way that you felt? Describe any emotions that you noticed. What triggered these emotions? What urges did you have? How did you respond to that feeling? What were the consequences of your response? The chapter summary. It's not always clear what we need to change, how to do it. You cannot change what you cannot make sense of. Get to know your problem inside out to make it easier to identify which way to go next. Start by reflecting on your situations after they had happened. Be ready to be honest with yourself about the ways you may contribute to the problem or keep yourself stuck. Therapy supports you through this process, but if you don't have access to therapy, journaling can be a good place to start. All right, so chapter 10, make it all go away. If you ever go to therapy, very early on, the therapist will ask you what you want from the process. Most people will include emotions in their answer. They have some painful or unpleasant emotions that they want to get rid of, and they are missing out on some of the more enjoyable or calm ones that they would like to feel again. And why wouldn't they? We all just want to be happy. They feel at the mercy of those painful emotions and want them gone. Far from making emotions go away in therapy, you can learn to change your relationship with them, to welcome them all, to pay attention to them, to see them for what they are, and to act in ways that will influence them and change their intensity of them. Emotions are either your enemy nor your friend. They do not occur because your brain has a few cogs misaligned, or because you are a sensitive soul, as you were told in the past. Emotions are your brain's attempts to explain and attach meaning to what is going on in the world and in your body. Your brain receives information from your physical senses about the outside world and from your bodily functions, like your heart rate, lungs, hormones, and immune function. It then uses memory of these sensations that occurred in the past to make some sense of them now. This is why heart palpitations brought on by too many cups of coffee can accumulate in a panic attack. The pounding heart, faster breathing, sweaty palms, all in a bit familiar to that time that you had a panic attack in the supermarket. The physical sensations feel like fear, and your brain gets the message that all is not well, which ramps up your threat response. Wouldn't it be great if we can just wake up in the morning and decide what we want to feel that day? Enter love, excitement, and joy, please. Unfortunately, it's not so simple. The opposite of this idea is that the emotions just pop up with no trigger, and we have no control over what happens or when it happens. All we can do is try to resist them, block them out, and be rational. But this is not always the case. When we cannot directly trigger all the emotions, we have a much more influence over our emotional state than what we were taught to believe. This does not mean that you are to blame for feeling emotional discomfort. It does not mean you are to blame, okay? It means that we get to learn about the many ways we can take responsibility for our own well-being and construct new emotional experiences. What not to do with emotions? To push them away. Imagine you are at the beach. You walk up to the sea with your chest. Like chest as in treasure chest, or like chest as in meat chest. The waves need to pass over you to get to the shore. If you try to hold the waves back and prevent them from reaching the shore, you learn how powerful those waves are. They push you back, and you quickly get engulfed and overwhelmed. But you don't have to tumble and struggle against the waves. Those waves are coming no matter what. When you accept them, you can focus on keeping your head above the water as it passes. You still feel the effects, might even get lifted off your feet for a moment, but you move the water and brace yourself to land back on your feet. So dealing with emotion is much the same as standing in the waves. When we try to stop feelings in their tracks, we easily get knocked off our feet and find ourselves in trouble, struggling to catch our breath and work out which way is up. When we allow our emotions to wash over us, it rises, peaks, and descends, taking its natural course. Dr. Chaosity, appreciate you being here. Thank you for still being here. Lurk as well. Thank you guys. Believe that they are facts. Emotions are real and valid, but they are not facts. They are a guess. A perspective that we try on for size. An emotion is the brain's attempt to make sense of the world so that you can meet your needs and survive. Given that's what you feel is not a factual statement. Neither are thoughts. This is partly why therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy can be so helpful to many people. It gives us a practice at being able to step back from thoughts and feelings and to see them for what they really are. Just one possible perspective. If we know that the thoughts and feelings are not facts and they are causing us distress, it can make sense to check it out and to see whether it is a true reflection of reality or whether an alternative would be more helpful. When we treat our current thoughts and emotions as facts, we allow them to determine our thoughts and actions of the future. Then life becomes a series of emotional reactions rather than informed choices. All right. So how do we stop buying into the thoughts as if they are facts? We ask questions. Something that therapy gives us practice at is being curious about experiences in both our inner world and the world around us. Individuals sit down opposite of me and start talking about the things that they got wrong that week and the feelings they shouldn't have had, stepping into the old habit of self criticism and self loathing. Then we shift our perspective to a bird's eye view. We look at how those behaviors fit our formulation. We shift into curiosity, where there is no need for self attack. So, whether it has been a great week or a hard one, we learn and grow. Holding curiosity allows us to look at our mistakes and learn when they might otherwise be too painful to acknowledge. Holding curiosity brings with it a sense of hope and energy for the future. Whatever happens, we are always learning. So, your toolkit: examine your coping strategies. What are the first signs for you that emotional discomfort is present? Is it a behavior? Do you recognize your blocking or protective behaviors? Where do you feel the emotion in your body? What thoughts are there? What beliefs are you buying into about the situation? And what effect is it having on you? Try writing down those thoughts and narratives. What can they tell us about what you were afraid of? What behaviors tend to follow a strong emotion? Do those behaviors help you in the short term? What is their long-term impact? Ask a trusted friend to go over the story with you and help you identify any biases or misunderstandings. Explore with them the different perspectives you might have. Chapter summary: emotions are neither your friend nor your enemy. We have more influence over our emotional state than we will ever taught to believe. Pushing emotion away can cause more problems than allowing it to wash over us and take its natural course. Emotions are not facts, but are one possible perspective. If there is emotional pain, get curious. Ask questions. What can they tell you?